Welcome to a special holiday edition of They Didn't Teach That at School. And today we're unwrapping the fascinating story of a beloved holiday icon. You know him as Santa Claus, the jolly red-suited figure who fills stockings and hearts each Christmas. But did you know that this modern symbol of generosity and joy has its roots in a real historical figure? In this episode, we'll trace the journey of St. Nicholas, a 4th century bishop from Myra, to the global legend we celebrate today. Along the way, we'll explore the extraordinary life of Nicholas of Myra, the legends that shaped his saintly reputation, and how these stories evolved into the mythos of Santa Claus. So grab a warm drink, settle by the fire, or, if you're like me in Australia, grab a cold drink and settle by the pool, and let's dive into the story of the real St. Nicholas, from hidden gold to modern myth. To understand the origins of St. Nicholas, we must travel back to the 3rd century, to the ancient city of Patara, located in what is now modern-day Turkey. Born around 270 AD to a wealthy Christian family, Nicholas grew up in a time when Christianity was still persecuted under Roman rule. Tragedy struck early in his life when he lost both his parents to an epidemic, but their passing left him with a substantial inheritance. Rather than indulging in his newfound wealth, Nicholas chose a path of selflessness and piety. He committed himself to the church, eventually becoming the Bishop of Myra, a small town in the region of Lycia. Nicholas's tenure as bishop was marked by his unwavering faith and remarkable acts of kindness. Though historical records are sparse, Nicholas' reputation for generosity and miracles spread rapidly, earning him a devoted following even during his lifetime. He became known not just as a spiritual leader, but as a protector of the oppressed, a champion of justice, and a helper to those in need. Over time, Nicholas was venerated as the patron saint of sailors, children, merchants, and those in desperate situations. One of the most enduring tales about St. Nicholas is the story of the dowries, a legend which not only solidified his reputation as a gift-giver, but also laid the foundation for his association with anonymous acts of generosity. The story goes like this. In Myra, there lived a poor man with 3 daughters. In the societal norms of the time, a dowry, a sum of money or property brought by the bride to her husband, was essential for marriage. Without a dowry, the daughters faced a grim future. They could neither marry nor support themselves, leaving only servitude or worse as their only options. Nicholas, moved by their plight, decided to intervene. Late at night, under the cover of darkness, he secretly approached their home and threw a bag of gold through the window, or, in some versions, down a chimney. The father awoke to discover the unexpected treasure which provided a dowry for his eldest daughter. This act of kindness was repeated twice more, ensuring dowries for all 3 daughters. On the 3rd occasion, the father waited in hiding, hoping to discover the identity of this mysterious benefactor. When Nicholas was caught, he humbly implored the father to keep his identity a secret, emphasizing the importance of giving without seeking recognition. The dowry legend resonated deeply, showing Nicholas's compassion and his role as a protector of the vulnerable. It also established him as a figure of clandestine generosity, a theme that would later evolve into the concept of Santa Claus delivering gifts in secret. As we look deeper into the life of St. Nicholas, it becomes clear that his reputation as a figure of generosity and miracles was well earned. Beyond the famous dowry legend, there are several other remarkable stories that showcase his compassion, faith, and extraordinary deeds. These tales have helped cement his status as one of the most beloved and venerated saints in Christian history. One of the lesser-known but equally captivating stories about St. Nicholas involves a miraculous intervention during a time of famine in Myra. The city was suffering from a severe food shortage, and its people were on the brink of starvation. During this desperate time, a ship carrying grain for the emperor's stores docked in Myra's port. The grain was meant to be delivered to Constantinople, but Nicholas saw an opportunity to save his people. He approached the sailors and pleaded with them to spare some of their cargo for the starving citizens of Myra. The sailors were reluctant. The grain was carefully measured and accounted for, and they feared repercussions if they delivered less than the expected amount. But Nicholas assured them that their cargo would not diminish, even if they gave generously to the people. Trusting in Nicholas's word, the sailors unloaded enough grain to feed the entire city, and miraculously, When they reached their destination, the amount of grain on board remained exactly as it had been before. This act not only saved the people of Myra, but demonstrated Nicholas's ability to inspire faith and his role as a provider of the needy. Another key aspect of St. Nicholas's legacy is his role as patron saint of sailors. This title stems from a story about his miraculous intervention during a storm at sea. According to the legend, a group of sailors travelling near Myra encountered a violent storm and threatened to capsize their ship. Fearing for their lives, they prayed to St. Nicholas, who was already renowned as a protector and miracle worker. Suddenly, the storm ceased and the seas calmed, allowing the sailors to continue their journey safely. Grateful for their deliverance, the sailors spread the story of Nicholas's intervention far and wide. Over time, he became the spiritual protector of sailors and travellers, with many invoking his name for safety during perilous journeys. In some seafaring communities, St. Nicholas's feast day, which is December 6, is still celebrated with special blessings for ships and sailors. Nicholas's reputation as a defender of justice is highlighted in a remarkable tale of courage and moral conviction. The story goes that 3 men were falsely accused of a crime and sentenced to death. As they stood on the executioner's block, Nicholas appeared and intervened directly. He boldly approached the executioner, grabbed his sword, and demanded that the men be released. Then, turning to the local officials, he confronted them for their corruption and false accusations, shaming them into confessing their misdeeds. The innocent men were set free, and Nicholas's actions solidified his role as a protector of the vulnerable and champion of the truth. This story, like the others, reflects Nicholas's unwavering commitment to justice and his willingness to act decisively in the face of wrongdoing. It also underscores the qualities that made him not just a spiritual leader, but a loved figure of moral authority. These tales of miraculous provision, protection at sea, and fearless defence of the innocent paint a vivid picture of Nicholas of Myra as a man of profound faith and compassion. His ability to intervene in moments of crisis, often with supernatural results, inspired deep reverence during his lifetime and cemented his place as a saint whose influence would echo through the centuries. The life and legacy of St. Nicholas didn't end with his death, believed to have occurred on December 6, 343 AD. Instead, the veneration surrounding him grew, and his remains became objects of great spiritual and cultural significance. However, this reverence also led to one of the most dramatic episodes in the history of his relics, their theft and relocation. By the 11th century, Myra, the city where St. Nicholas served as a bishop, was under threat from invading forces. The Byzantine Empire, which controlled the region, was losing its grip on Asia Minor, and the Muslim Seljuk Turks were advancing. Concerned that the saint's relics might fall into the hands of non-Christians, a group of Italian sailors took matters into their own hands, or so the story goes. In 1087, sailors from Bari, a port in southern Italy, embarked on what they claimed was a mission to rescue the relics of St. Nicholas. They broke into the church where his remains were housed and transported them to Bari, where they were enshrined in a newly built Basilica di San Nicola. This act was both a spiritual and political move. Bari became a significant pilgrimage site, boosting the city's status and economy. Interestingly, not all of St. Nicholas's remains made it to Bari. Another group of sailors from Venice claimed a portion of his relics and enshrined them in the San Niccolò a Lido, a church in Venice. To this day, both cities claim a connection to the saint, and his relics continue to draw pilgrims from around the world. The theft of St. Nicholas's relics, while controversial, helped spread his veneration beyond the eastern Mediterranean. With his remains now housed in a prominent Western Christian city, his cult became firmly rooted in the Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic traditions. One of the most intriguing aspects of St. Nicholas's relics is the phenomenon known as the manna of St. Nicholas. This mysterious substance is said to be a sweet-smelling, watery liquid that exudes from his bones. The manna has been collected annually from the tomb of Bari for centuries and is considered a miracle by the faithful. The collection process is steeped in reverence. Clergy and lay people gather on the 9th of May, the date of the translation from his relics to Bari, for a solemn ceremony where the liquid is carefully drawn from the tomb. The manna is believed to possess healing properties, and small vials of it are distributed to the pilgrims and the devout. Over the centuries, countless stories have been told of miraculous cures attributed to the manna, enhancing the saint's reputation as a protector and healer. Interestingly, scientific studies of the manor suggest that it may be a form of condensation, as Nicholas's tomb is located underground in a human environment. However, for the faithful, this explanation does not detract from its spiritual significance. The manor serves as a tangible connection to the saint and a testament to his enduring presence. The influence of St. Nicholas extended far beyond the borders of Christian Europe, making him a truly global figure whose legacy transcends religious and cultural bounds. His reputation as a figure of generosity and protection and wisdom resonated deeply in a variety of traditions, each adapting his story to local contexts and beliefs. In Russia, St. Nicholas emerged as one of the most venerated saints in the Orthodox Christian tradition. Though known as Nicholas the Wonder Worker, he was celebrated not only for his miracles, but also for his role as protector of the weak and bringer of justice. Russian Orthodox iconography often depicts him as a solemn and wise figure, sometimes with the scenes of his miracles surrounding his portrait. St. Nicholas's feast day on December 6, or December 19 in the Russian Orthodox Church, which follows the Julian calendar, became a major occasion for devotion and celebration. Churches across Russia were dedicated to him, and he was frequently invoked by sailors, merchants, and families seeking his intercession. In Russian folklore, St. Nicholas took on an almost mythical status, embodying the idea of kindness and charity. His role in protecting the oppressed and providing for the needy made him a cherished figure, and his association with winter festivals further solidified his connection to the holy season. In modern-day Turkey, where St. Nicholas of Myra lived and served as a bishop, his legacy remains alive, even within the Islamic cultural context. Known as Noel Baba, literally Father Christmas, St. Nicholas is a respected figure of generosity and wisdom. While the religious aspects of his story are less emphasised, the themes of kindness, secret gift-giving, and care for the needy resonate universally. In some regions of Turkey, particularly around the town of Demre, which is ancient Myra, St. Nicholas is celebrated with festivals and events that honour his role as a cultural bridge. Tourists and pilgrims, both Christian and Muslim, visit his church and tomb, underscoring his broad appeal as a symbol of goodness and charity. While St. Nicholas's story is firmly rooted in Christian tradition, elements of his legend and the modern Santa Claus figure may have pre-Christian pagan origins. These connections reveal how the merging culture and religious traditions shape the figures we recognise today. One of the most intriguing parallels comes from Norse mythology, particularly the figure of Odin, the chief of the gods. Odin was often depicted as a white-bearded, wise figure who travelled across the skies on his 8-legged horse, Sleipnir. During the Yule season, a midwinter festival celebrated in the Germanic world, Odin was said to lead the Wild Hunt, a ghostly procession through the sky. In some Yule traditions, children would leave food out for Sleipnir, much like the modern children leave out cookies and milk for Santa or carrots for his reindeer. In return, Odin was believed to leave small gifts or tokens for those who honoured him. This imagery of a bearded figure riding through the skies and rewarding good behaviour may have influenced the development of St. Nicholas as a bringer of gifts. The adaptation of these themes into Christian contexts helped make Nicholas a relatable and beloved figure for converts from German paganism. Beyond Odin, other pagan traditions that may have contributed to the modern Santa Claus mythology: Saturnalia, the ancient Roman festival of Saturnalia, celebrated in mid-December, involved feasting, gift-giving, and reversal of social roles. While not directly linked to St. Nicholas, the festive spirit and customs of Saturnalia influenced early Christmas traditions. In Celtic traditions, the Winter King, or Father Winter, was a personification of the cold season, often depicted as a white-haired, benevolent figure. Like Santa Claus, he symbolised the enduring warmth and generosity of the human spirit even in the darkest months. And the emphasis on chimneys and hearths in modern Santa Claus lore may also connect to ancient hearth gods who are associated with home, warmth, and the giving of blessings during the winter season. A blending of St. Nicholas's Christian story with these older pagan traditions reflects the adaptability of myths and legends. As Christianity spread across Europe and beyond, it absorbed elements of the cultures it encountered and created a rich tapestry of symbolism and stories. This fusion allowed St. Nicholas to transcend his origins as a 4th century bishop and evolve into a universal figure of generosity and joy. Whether as Noel Baba in Turkey, Nicholas the Wonder Worker in Russia, or a mythical gift giver influenced by Odin, his stories speak to a shared human desire for kindness, hope, and a little magic in the darkest days of winter. While the manner and the relics solidified St. Nicholas's importance as a miracle worker, his feast day, celebrated on December 6, played a key role in shaping the traditions that would eventually lead to the modern Santa Claus. The Feast of St. Nicholas was a major occasion in medieval Europe, marked by acts of charity and gift-giving. In many regions, children would wake up on December 6 to find small gifts such as sweets, nuts, or coins left in their shoes or stockings. This custom stemmed directly from the stories of St. Nicholas's generosity, particularly the dowry legend. In addition to gifts for children, the feast day was also a time for charitable acts. Communities would organise almsgiving and donations to the poor, embodying the saint's legacy of helping those in need. These customs were particularly strong in the Netherlands, Germany, and Eastern Europe, where St. Nicholas's veneration was deeply rooted. The gift-giving associated with St. Nicholas's feast day laid the groundwork for many modern Christmas traditions. While December 6 remained a significant day for St. Nicholas in some parts of the world, the association of gift-giving with Christmas Day became more widespread in the 19th century, especially in English-speaking countries. This transition was influenced by several factors, including the Protestant Reformation, which downplayed the veneration of saints and the cultural amalgamation in places like the United States. The imagery of St. Nicholas gradually merged with other holiday figures, such as Father Christmas, eventually leading to the red-suited jolly Santa Claus we know today. The transformation of St. Nicholas into the modern-day Santa Claus owes much to the Dutch settlers who brought their cherished Sinterklaas traditions to America in the 18th century. In Dutch culture, Sinterklaas was the personification of St. Nicholas, complete with a bishop's attire including a mitre and staff, a flowing white beard, and an air of dignified generosity. Sinterklaas was celebrated as a beloved figure who arrived by a ship from Spain, a nod to the Netherlands' historic trade connections with the Iberian Peninsula, and rode through town on a white horse. On the eve of December 5th, known as Sinterklaasavond, Sinterklaas evening, children would place their shoes near the fireplace filled with hay and carrots for Sinterklaas's horse. In return, they would wake up on December 6th to find small gifts, sweets or coins left in their shoes. Naughty children, however, were told they might receive a lump of coal or be taken away by Sinterklaas's helper, traditionally known as Zwarte Piet. When Dutch immigrants settled in New Amsterdam, which we now call New York City, they brought these traditions with them, keeping alive the memory of St. Nicholas in their new home. By the late 18th century, the Sinterklaas tradition had become part of a local folklore, embraced not only by Dutch descendants, but also by the diverse melting pot of early America. As Sinterklaas traditions mingled with the English-speaking American culture, linguistic changes began to take place. The Dutch name Sinterklaas was gradually anglicised by early settlers, evolving into the name we know today, Santa Claus. The name transformation reflects the process of cultural adaptation. In English-speaking America, Sinter became Santa, and Claus, derived from Nicholas, remained intact but simplified. This new name, Santa Claus, provided a more accessible and universal identity for the figure, divorced from its explicitly Dutch roots and open to reinterpretation. The concept of Santa Claus continued to adapt and evolve through the 18th and 19th centuries. Writers, artists, and cultural influences began to shape his character and appearance, merging elements from various European traditions. This process blurred the lines between St. Nicholas, Sinterklaas, and other religious gift-givers like England's Father Christmas and Germany's Christkind. The transformation of Santa Claus from an early European folklore to an American cultural icon began in earnest in the 19th century. In 1809, Washington Irving's satirical work Knickerbocker's History of New York played a pivotal role in popularizing the Dutch Sinterklaas legend. Irving described St. Nicholas as a jovial figure who travelled in a flying wagon, delivering presents to good children. Though this depiction was still rooted in the Sinterklaas traditions, it marked a shift towards the Santa Claus we know today. The most influential literary moment came in 1823 with the publication of the poem A Visit from St. Nicholas, or better known as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. This poem, attributed to Clement Clarke Moore, reimagines Santa Claus as a plump, jolly figure with a sleigh pulled by 8 reindeer, delivering gifts on Christmas Eve. Moore's depiction of Santa Claus solidified many elements of the modern image, including his association with chimneys, stockings, and the iconic exclamation, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night." In "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," Moore describes Santa's sleigh as being pulled by 8 reindeer, each with a unique name. These were Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Dunder, and Bliksem. The last 2 names, Dunder and Bliksem, were derived from Dutch words meaning thunder and lightning, a nod to Moore's knowledge of New York's Dutch cultural heritage. Over time, as the poem was reprinted and popularised, these names evolved. By the 19th century, Dunder had become Donna and Bliksem had transformed into Blitzen. These changes likely occurred as the names were anglicised for a broader audience. Despite these adaptations, the imagery of Santa's 8 flying reindeers remains a cherished part of Christmas lore. While Clement Clarke Moore's poem established the idea of Santa's reindeer, the most famous of Santa's reindeer team, Rudolph, didn't appear until over a century later. Rudolph was created in 1939 by Robert L. May, a copywriter for Montgomery Ward Department Store, as a promotional Christmas booklet. Rudolph's story is one of individuality, resilience, and redemption. Born with a glowing red nose that made him the subject of ridicule, Rudolph ultimately proves his worth by leading Santa's sleigh through a foggy Christmas Eve, his luminous nose lighting the way. The tale resonated deeply with audiences, particularly children who could identify with feelings of exclusion or being different. In 1949, the story was immortalised in song by Johnny Marks, Robert L. May's brother-in-law. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer became a chart-topping hit and further cemented Rudolph's place in the Santa mythos. Today, Rudolph represents not only the magic of Christmas, but also the triumph of self-acceptance and the importance of recognising unique talents. Now, if Clement Clarke Moore gave us Santa's reindeer, it was the political cartoonist Thomas Nash who gave us Santa's home, and much more. Working for Harper's Weekly during the mid to late 19th century, Nast created a series of illustrations that brought Santa Claus to life in vivid details. One of Nast's most enduring contributions was situating Santa Claus at the North Pole. This choice was both practical and symbolic. The North Pole was an isolated, unreachable place shrouded in mystery and wonder. By placing Santa's workshop there, Nast underscored Santa's magical and timeless nature, creating a sense that he existed beyond the normal constraints of geography. The North Pole location also served as a clever cultural purpose. By anchoring Santa in an unclaimed neutral territory, Nast avoided associating him with any specific nation or culture. This decision helped transform Santa into a universal figure, accessible and beloved by people across the globe, regardless of their nationality. Nast's illustrations also introduced an important moral accountability to the Santa Claus legend, the naughty or nice list. In Nast's depictions, Santa is shown to having kept a meticulous record of children's behaviour through the year. Those who were well behaved could expect presents, while those who misbehaved might receive coal, or nothing at all. The idea of Santa as a benevolent but watchful figure added a layer of moral instruction to the Christmas traditions. Parents could invoke Santa's list to encourage good behaviour in their children, tying the rewards of the season to conduct and values. The concept of Santa knowing when you've been good or bad remains a central part of the mythos, immortalised in the lyrics of Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Between Clement Clarke Moore's imaginative reindeer and Thomas Nash's detailed illustrations, the Santa Claus we know today was firmly taking shape by the late 19th century. These contributions added richness and complexity to the legend, blending whimsy with moral lessons and making Santa a figure who could inspire wonder while reinforcing values of kindness, generosity, and good behaviour. The final and most significant step in the evolution of Santa Claus came in the 20th century, thanks to the Coca-Cola Company's advertising campaigns. In the 1930s, Coca-Cola commissioned illustrator Haddon Sundblom to create a series of Santa Claus advertisements. Sundblom's depiction of Santa were cheerful, larger-than-life, and vividly human, forever cementing the modern image of the character. Sunderblom's Santa was a full-bodied, rosy-cheeked figure with a warm smile and twinkling eyes. He now wore the classic red suit with white trim, a choice that aligned perfectly with Coca-Cola's brand colours. Sunderblom's illustrations portrayed Santa as approachable and friendly, often seen enjoying a Coca-Cola, delivering presents or interacting with children. These ads appeared in magazines, on billboards, and in stores worldwide, making Sunderblom's version of Santa instantly recognisable. For many, these images became synonymous with Christmas itself. The campaign's global reach ensured this version of Santa transcended cultural boundaries, becoming a universal symbol of holiday cheer. Sunderblom's Santa was not just a character in a story. He was a living embodiment of the Christmas spirit, blending nostalgia, warmth, and the joy of giving. The success of Coca-Cola's campaign solidified Santa's role as a central figure in modern Christian celebrations, and his image has remained largely unchanged since. As we wrap up this holiday special of They Didn't Teach That at School, it is clear that the story of St. Nicholas is much more than a tale of transformation. It is a testament to the enduring power of generosity, kindness, and the human need for symbols of hope. We began with a real man, Nicholas of Myra, a 4th century bishop whose acts of compassion and miraculous deeds inspired a legacy that transcended his time and place. From his secret gifts of gold to save 3 women from despair, to the miraculous manna that flows from his relics, Nicholas was a figure who embodied the spirit of giving. We followed his journey as his relics were stolen and veneration spread, culminating in feast day customs that made him a beloved figure across Europe. These traditions laid the groundwork for the modern Santa Claus, brought to America by Dutch settlers as Santa Claus, and lovingly reimagined by writers, artists, and advertisers. Through Clement Clarke Moore's "'Twas the Night Before Christmas", Santa became a whimsical, jolly figure. Thomas Nash gave him his iconic red suit, his workshop, and his North Pole residence, making him the magical toy maker we know. Finally, Coca-Cola painted Santa as a symbol of warmth and universal cheer, sealing his place in hearts worldwide. But beyond the myths, illustrations, and marketing campaigns, the story of St. Nicholas reminds us of something deeper. Whether as a humble bishop, a mysterious gift giver, or a global icon in a red suit, St. Nicholas, and by extension Santa Claus, represents the best of what we can be: generous, compassionate, and hopeful. This holiday season, as we exchange gifts, light up our homes, and gather loved ones, let's take a moment to remember the real St. Nicholas. His story is a reminder that small acts of kindness can ripple through time, creating traditions and memories that endure for centuries. Thank you for joining me on this festive journey through history. I hope it's given you a deeper appreciation of the origins of Santa Claus and the spirit of Christmas. In our next episode, we'll explore another fascinating piece of religious history, Zoroastrianism, its profound influence on Gnosticism and Christianity, and its lasting legacy in our spiritual traditions. You won't want to miss it. I hope you've enjoyed this dive into the real story of St. Nicholas and his transformation into the iconic figure of today's Santa Claus. Don't forget to tune in for our next episode on Zoroastrianism, but in the meantime, stay curious, keep exploring, and remember, there's always more to learn. I'm Mark Kerrigan. See you next time on They Didn't Teach That at School.